We'll put a stop to that once and for all. Officer, those people taking away our train, I want you to chase them away. But they're only picking up a couple of nickels and dimes. They can't hurt your trade. I'm a taxpayer, and I demand my rights. Sidney Kibrick walked away from $750 a week at just 11 years old. That's $13,000 in today's money. But why would a child abandon a fortune during the Great Depression? The answer lies in what really happened on the Little Rascals set. 16-hour workdays, 2 hours of school, and a co-star so violent that studio executives kept a casualty list of his victims. While America saw Alfalfa as the innocent victim, Sidney knew the terrifying truth. Now, as the sole survivor, he's revealing the dark reality that destroyed an entire generation of child stars. Sidney Kibrick was born on July 2, 1928 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. America was booming at the time. Jazz was everywhere. The stock market was flying high and movies were just starting to talk. But that perfect picture didn't last. Just over a year later, in October 1929, everything collapsed. The Great Depression hit hard, and the Kibrick family was now surrounded by even more hardship. Sidney's parents couldn't wait around and hope things would get better. With barely enough money to get by, they packed up everything and moved to Los Angeles. Sidney was still a baby. His older brother, Leonard, was just 4 years old. The trip was more than 1,800 miles, and it wasn't a road trip for fun. It was survival. California promised jobs and opportunities, especially in the growing film business. Big studios like MGM and Hal Roach were looking for child actors, and the Kibrick hoped their boys might have a shot. That gamble paid off faster than anyone expected. One day, Sidney's mother took him and Leonard to Grauman's Chinese theater. After the movie, a man came up to them. He pointed at Sidney and said, "I could use that little kid in the movies." That moment changed everything. That man turned out to be a talent scout. And just like that, 5-year-old Sidney was on his way to becoming a child star. It wasn't just any role. Sidney was cast in the famous Our Gang series. He was earning $750 a week. That might sound like a nice paycheck today, but back then, during the worst financial crisis in U.S. history, it was massive. In today's money, that's over $11,000 a week. The average adult was making about $16 a week. At just 5 years old, Sidney was the family's main source of income. Leonard, his older brother, had already paved the way. He was 4 years older and had joined our gang in 1934. Leonard usually played bullies, tough kids, the ones you love to hate. His last role in the series came in 1936, when another actor, Tommy Bond, took over the main bully role as Butch in 1937. Sidney stepped in as Butch's sidekick. They called him the Woham. That move created something rare in Hollywood. A real-life pair of brothers playing villains together in the same show. But behind the scenes, things weren't as happy as they looked on camera. They called it the Dream Factory. But for child actors like Sidney Kibrick in the 1930s, it felt more like a machine that never stopped. Every morning began the same way. 2 hours of mandatory schooling. That was it. Just 2 hours. As soon as class ended, the real work began. Some days it lasted 6 hours. On others, it dragged on for 16. There were no breaks, no real concern for how tired or overwhelmed the children were. The directors had one goal: finish the day's shots no matter what. Gordon Douglas, one of the main directors, didn't care if the kids were exhausted. If the scene wasn't done, they kept shooting. Back then, there were no strong laws to protect child actors. The Coogan Act, which was supposed to guarantee fair treatment and safeguard earnings, wouldn't be passed until 1939. By then, Sidney had already built a name for himself. But to get there, he had to survive some of the harshest conditions any child could face. The studio didn't care that he was just a kid. They cared about the product. And Sidney, like so many others, was part of that product. His first roles were tiny. In the 1937 movie Dead End, he was just one of 3 kids huddled in the background near a River Doc. He also appeared in The Kids' Last Fight in the Bowery in 1933. Again, without recognition. But these background parts weren't just filler. They were survival lessons. On set, there was a clear chain of command among the kids. The ones with speaking lines, especially those with character names, were on top. Everyone else just tried to stay visible enough to get noticed. It was brutal. Friendships were rare. Competition was constant. Sidney slowly moved up that chain. By 1935, he wasn't just the kid in the background anymore. He became a regular in the hour gang shorts. That meant more screen time, better pay, and a little more respect. He appeared in episodes like Anniversary Trouble, Beginner's Luck, and Little Papa, all in that same year. The workload increased, but so did the reward. While the world outside the studio was reeling from the Great Depression, Sidney had a steady job. His family, who had left Minneapolis for Los Angeles in search of opportunity, now had income thanks to their two sons. Leonard Kibrick, Sidney's older brother, was also in our gang. For most Americans, in the 1930s, life was about survival. The average family earned around $1,368 a year. Many fathers were out of work. Entire neighborhoods went hungry. So, even a modest paycheck from a child actor was enough to change a family's fortune. The entertainment industry, unlike most others, held steady during the crisis. People wanted to escape their problems even for just an hour. And kids like Sidney were part of that escape. Studios could pay them less than adult actors and still draw crowds. Sidney Kibrick was just a small kid with freckles and red hair, but he became one of the most recognizable bad guys in early Hollywood comedy. In 1937, when Hal Roach needed a new bully for the hour gang shorts, he replaced Leonard Kibrick with Tommy Bond, a loud and strong presence on screen. But Bond wasn't alone. Sidney, who was actually Leonard's younger brother, became his sidekick. The two of them, Butch and William, were total opposites. Bond stood nearly 4 feet 10 inches with a booming voice. Sidney was barely 4 feet 5 inches, quick and wiry, with a sharp little bark when he spoke. On screen, they looked like trouble. "Come on, William," Butch would shout, and Sidney would charge in like a tiny bodyguard, arms flailing. But behind the camera, their relationship was the